Every day we're getting more details as to the extent of the fraud that's happening in Minnesota. As it stands right now, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, is leading the charge for the record amount of fraud that our country has ever seen. Let's get into the details.
Nearly 100 Minnesota mayors say they are deeply concerned and frustrated by the fraud and unchecked spending from state officials. They say the state's $18 billion surplus has disappeared, and now Minnesota projects $3 billion in deficits in 2028. Their letter goes on to say, as mayors, we see firsthand how these decisions ripple outward. Our state owes it to our citizens to practice responsible fiscal management and to stop taxing our families, seniors, and businesses out of Minnesota. We urge the legislature to course correct and to remember that every dollar you manage belongs not to the capital, but to the people of Minnesota.
Joining us now is the Brewer Group CEO, Jack Brewer, lived in Minnesota for many years of his adult life. Jack, what's your reaction to this letter?
You know, I've said it for years, unfortunately. Minnesota has become the capital of chaos. Liberals have sat there and watched this beautiful city and this great state just become the laughing stock of America.
Just a quick interruption from the story. If you're an America First voter and you love President Trump, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. If you could also like this video or leave a comment down below, all of that goes a long way to telling the algorithm to boost us. Believe me, the liberals, the YouTube algorithm, and everybody that isn't America First is trying to suppress our voice again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now back to the story.
At some point, you have to do something about it. I mean, no human being could have the perspective and the thoughts and the liberalism in their mind like a Tim Walz, like a Keith Ellerson. You expect these type of moves because they've been allowed to do whatever they want. I mean, to promote some of the things that they promote, you understand exactly what's down deeper in their soul. And so you can't put anything by them. And so I don't know why the citizens of Minnesota would have ever trusted a man that puts tampons in kids' locker rooms and promotes the things that he promotes. And so, it's just sad to see that Minnesota now has become literally the laughing stock of America.
Yeah, well, we were originally.
Now, keep in mind, as it stands right now, or let me take a step backwards, it originally was noted that there was about $1 billion in fraud, much of it coming from the Somali community in Minnesota. This is both welfare fraud and COVID fraud. There were about 80 defendants or so that were responsible for the majority of that. The most recent number is north of $9 billion. And when you look at the budget deficits that the state is running, it could actually get higher. So $1 billion in fraud had Minnesota at the top, which is a list you don't want to be on the top of, at the top of all of the states in the union and the amount of fraud that is potentially taking place. If this number goes up by 9x, Tim Walz and Ellison and all of the administration that is in charge of oversight in Minnesota need to go to jail and need to go to jail for a very long time.
Told that it was $1 billion in fraud, and now we're learning that could be just the tip of the iceberg, and there are reports now that say that it could be upwards of $9 billion in fraud. That's taxpayer dollars. And House Minority Whip Tom Emmer is also saying this about the Walz administration and their knowledge of fraud, saying, quote, I think as they start to peel this onion back, which just seems to be getting deeper and deeper and broader, whoever was responsible needs to be held accountable. My personal opinion is there is no way that $1 billion plus got its way out of the Walz administration without someone in the administration being aware and or complicit. What do you think about that?
Let me jump in here real quick. There's been hundreds of whistleblowers that have come forward that worked for both the state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis-St. Paul, both of which have come forward with whistleblower protected data that shows that they've been notifying Tim Walz himself and Ellison, the AG himself, so specifically those two individuals, as to the extent of the fraud that has been taking place that they've been able to identify. This was years ago. years ago. So both of these individuals, both Ellison, the AG, and Walz, the governor, were very aware of what was going on and have done nothing. Nothing. The bigger question is, how deeply rooted is this fraud within the administration, both within the state, at the state level, and at the city level? More details to come there. But right now, it looks like the two individuals at the top of the pyramid were more than aware of what was going on.
I think he's dead on. I mean, there's a special place in heaven for Republicans in Minnesota who have stood the line and stood up to these liberals. I mean, it's really sad when you see a guy like Tim Walz and what he's been allowed to do. I mean, not just Minnesotans. I mean, this is American taxpayer dollars.
That's right.
A lot of it, and so it's just wrong. So many people locked up in prisons and jails all over the country. I will go into prisons and jails all the time, and people that get locked up for much, much, much less than that
Right.
across the world.
Great point.
These liberals will promote and fight and scratch for illegal immigrants, but they don't say anything about all those Americans, those millions of Americans that are impacted by the criminal justice system from doing much less than people like Tim Walz. And so
Jack brings up a great point, and this is one of the themes that was behind Donald Trump's mandate in landslide victory, and that is the injustice and the slanted justice that we see. And Jack Brewer is exactly correct. There are people right now in jail in Minnesota that are in there for a long time, that Walz and his AG had no problem putting behind bars, that have done much less than what these two individuals are allegedly aware of, potentially participated, etc. And keep in mind, there's one other person that's yet to be mentioned here. That is Ilhan Omar, right, at the congressional level, and what she was aware of specifically with the Somali community. So as the days go on, and this has just really become public probably in the last 6 weeks. As this is going on, this went in a matter of 6 weeks from $1 billion to north of nine, with hundreds of whistleblowers now coming out. I'm telling you, the house of cards of fraud within the state level of Minnesota and the city level of Minneapolis will be coming down quickly. Quickly. People are turning on each other as we speak. So if Tim Walz and Ellison and potentially Omar think that they can get away from this, this has just started.
So we have a responsibility in this country to have, fair justice systems and,
Right.
and not to have 2 and 3 tier justice systems where these politicians like Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz can go around and rob and steal. But, folks that don't have the means to get lawyers are locked up in jail. We're responsible as Americans to stand up and make an example out of these people in Minnesota.
So now let's pivot. What is Tim Walz talking about today as the details of the largest fraud, welfare, social systems, and COVID scam ever known in America is coming to light? This is what Tim Walz is talking about.
So this is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy. When you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white. That's never happened once in my whole damn life. And I think everybody in this room knows what they're doing. So we're here today to say enough of this. We're here today to stand that Minnesota will protect their neighbors.
So what is Tim Walz doing? It's the typical Democrat playbook. He's playing divisive racial politics, right? Bringing up white supremacists and trying to put a cleave into the racial divide. Anything but talk about what's going on right now at the investigative level. America is sick and tired of the racial politics and the weak progressive playbook where anytime they get caught with facts not on their side, they go to victim, right? They go to race, and they go to anything but the truth. So where is this going to go? We don't know. I'm curious what you think, so let me know in the comments down below. If you've yet to subscribe to America First Alerts, please do so. Believe me, the algorithms on all of the major channels, Rumble, YouTube, TikTok, X, They're doing everything they can to continue to quiet and quell the conservative voice. If you're leaving a comment, liking this video, and subscribing will go a long way. We'll see you in the next video.
Okay, let's go.